All right, we were talking about the Blazers and the Wizards both go 0 for the month of February. They've become the 14th and 15th teams in NBA history to go 0 for an entire month of any month of a season. And they become, to our research, the first teams to do it in the same month.
Yeah, I haven't been able to track anything else out down behind it.
Because there's like 8-year gaps of any team going 0 for a month. It's a really hard thing to do.
It is.
And we're looking at a Blazers team that we know what we're talking about. It's a rebuild. It is a tear down, build back up. But this is going to be the third year in a row that the Blazers will be under 500. And we were talking about the fact that the Blazers have been a consistent winner for so long has really been impressive. And we think about the Jailblazer years and how dark of a period that was for Portland. They only had 3 losing seasons. They went 500 in 2003, 2004. And then the 05, 06, and 07 seasons, they went under 500 in all 3 of those years.
It got really dark for 1 year, but they started to see a little bit of light, obviously, after drafting Brandon LaMarcus.
And then it turned around, and then boom, you've had that consistency. Was it ever at a championship caliber? No, it was close before everything kind of fell apart.
I think if you
everybody went their separate ways.
I think if you asked everybody in the organization if those guys were healthy, if they were a title contender in 3 years, I think you would probably get a 90% approval rate.
But
things did not.
They did not.
We know where they went.
The salary cap went up. LaMarcus left. Wes got hurt. He left. Nick goes on to greener pastures.
That's even the next version.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Brandon, Greg, LaMarcus group. That group, they actually reset. You think about
that was a quick reset there.
That is not normal because you got nothing out of Brandon. They got nothing out of Greg, and LaMarcus walks. They get nothing out of those guys. The saving grace was Chad Buchanan, number 1, helping with Pritchard with the Gerald Wallace deal, and then getting Gerald Wallace out and getting that unprotected pick that ends up becoming Damian Lillard, and Buchanan is the mastermind behind that after Pritchard gets fired, and then you kind of build from there.
If we look and we kind of forecast where the Blazers are right now and where they are moving forward, this will be the 3rd losing season in a row, which you highlighted. That's only happened
2 other times.
2 other times. No. One of them being the first 6 years of the Blazers' existence.
Which you're going from an expansion franchise. Unless you're the Vegas Knights in the NHL, you're going to suck.
Well, if we're being honest, the 77 championship was because of the ABA-NBA merger.
Yeah, they were able to pick up Maurice Lucas. Like, oh, hey, by the way, here's a 2-time ABA All-Star. Enjoy. Oh, and your other draft pick is turning it into an MVP.
So we're looking at this being the 3rd year in a row where they will not be 500. Next year, you're staring down the barrel of probably the same fate, and that would be the longest stretch since the first 6 years of the Blazers' existence of being sub 500. The climate in this, and we've talked about the different iterations of the Blazers and different iterations of other NBA teams. Why are we at the point now where it is you have to tank for a half of a decade in order to win?
Even the Lakers did. Even the Lakers had to do this post Kobe Bryant. Remember how they got Anthony Davis, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball.
Now,
like, Brandon Ingram, number 2 overall pick. Lonzo Ball, number 3 overall pick. They had to be traded away to make this happen. Remember, they had D'Angelo Russell, who was also a number 3 overall pick, and they took Kuzma at 27. Like, you think about what they had to draft and then what they had to do. This is the Lakers and their draft capital that they built up, and they sucked until they went and got Anthony Davis. They get LeBron James. Like, it's
the 2013 through the 2018-19 season, they were all sub 500 seasons.
The Lakers, 6 years in the desert. The Lakers were. Think about that. That's insane. And it was during Kobe Bryant's last couple of years. Did they waste the back end of Kobe Bryant? No, because he wasn't nearly as good anymore. But I think that's more reminiscent of what you're looking at the Blazers. It's going to take a while. And the thing is, they need to hit. Did they hit with Shaedon? I don't know. Did they hit with Scoot? I don't know. Are they going to hit with whoever they take this year? I don't know. They need, if not, they all need to be above average enough to where you can package them up and go get somebody. Whether it's 2 of them or 3 of them. Well, preferably just 2.
I mean, and we look at other teams too. I mean, it's been over a decade for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
I mean, you can really say
was-
it's been 20 years.
You're looking at the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they finally are coming out on the other side, and that has been, albeit shorter
Sure,
than
but Dame blew
Minnesota.
up their franchise in 2019. We are 5 years removed from that.
And you have to go all the way. You have to start all the way from ground zero again, where why are we at that point in the NBA to where you have to tear it completely down instead of the ability? And what we used to see was the ability for trades. It was almost as if we could find those diamonds in the rough a lot easier in the draft process.
That's the thing, is the drafting process has gotten significantly more difficult because more teams are smarter. The other part of this is there's more teams. You can go back
Delusion of talent.
Yeah. Well, not even just that. Just it's harder just because you have more teams that are smarter.
Well, yeah, it spreads talent around,
Yeah.
and you have 30 NBA teams as opposed to having between
24 back
24 to 28 teams as when a lot of these rebuilds have happened.
And that's the thing, is you take a look at this and the CBA and how things are done now, and the player empowerment era that definitely plays a part in that, which the new CBA is snuffing that out. I think we're going to pivot more towards that again. And I think you're going to see the concentration of players, top-end players, start to be more diluted. And so we'll probably swing back towards more teams being in the middle, which is what the NBA wants. They don't want it to have this hard line cut off at like 10th, like, oh, you're fighting for a playing spot, and the team behind them is 14 games back.
And
It's like,
this
wait,
is
what?
This is the wild thing about the NBA, and I think what Blazer fans, it wears on you for so long, is being good but not good enough. And there was how many times, I know you heard it ad nauseum, I've heard it ad nauseum. It was, this all needs to be scrapped. Either you're going to be a title contender or you're not. What's the point? And I think that being palatable for fan bases also has made it so a lot of these franchises will go into hell and try to take the shortcut through hell, where you're really bad and it's a rough stretch. It's become palatable because what the NFL does is it's brilliant, but when you have one game playoff games, you can get hot, you can make a run, and you have that hope and that chance. The NBA wants to create what the NFL has, which is a league of parity, and where everybody is around 500 and hovers there. That's been in the existence of the Blazers since 2001, is trying to get, a playoff contention team and being like, guys, it's not that bad. I think we're finding out how bad it is when you are truly on the outside looking in.
This is what I try to tell everybody going into this, that you're not ready for this.
But winning, if it means getting over the hump and winning a championship, how long is the fan base willing to wait? And for the Blazers, you're looking at, it will be the longest stretch of non-competitive basketball since the franchise came to existence in 1970.
Yeah.
And that is just life in the NBA now. And as much as you sit there and you go, all right, well, you can build a title contender, when you look back at how those teams were built in the 70s, late 80s, 90s, early 2000s, that league doesn't exist anymore. Oh. And it's a crazy pivot point that we've gotten to. But if you eventually want to become OKC or where Minnesota is right now, you have to do it.
You can go big market. Everybody looks at Boston, this beacon of hope and success. Boston sucked. They sucked. How do you think they get top picks like Tatum and Brown?
Well, it's fleecing the Nets is one thing.
Yes.
Fleecing a team that does suck even more. That's one way, but they do it in 1 or 2 year spurts, and then Uncle Danny would come in and clean up.
Yes, but that's my point. Like there's a period post KG where they go, we're not that good. Now they add young Tatum to a team that's already on the way back up, and they've completely retooled since then. But you go through these periods of, again, the Lakers and Celtics are the greatest organizations in basketball when it comes to championship equity. They have gone through periods where they have been tire fires. Absolutely, objectively horrible. This is the first time, really, the Blazers have done this, with the exception of the Jailblazers. And that was less about rebuilding and more about dysfunctional management than anything else.
Yeah.
Which, again, that's a different story. Timberwolves sucked because they made the wrong move at every juncture outside of Kevin Love.
Well, on the flip side of that, You have, like this texter says, Spurs were in the dumps and still are. They have an all-time great coach and had it to tank too. Luck means a ton.
Again, the Blazers were one ping pong ball off Wemby. Did he do something last night?
Luck is the most crazy part about all of this, that you just sit there and at times you just throw your hands up because how unlucky have the Blazers been?
Yeah, you're one ping pong ball off for Wemby, Odin versus Durant, Bowie versus Jordan. I mean, you go down
Bill Walton's feet.
Bill Walton's feet. Hakeem
Lost the coin flip
Olajuwon.
where it cost you, Hakeem Olajuwon
Like,
instead of Sam Bowie.
The damn Cold War.
Yeah. Yes.
Sabonis.
Sabonis being drafted in 86, not coming over until 96.
Referee corruption in the early 2000s.
Yeah. I mean,
I guess it's wild. It's wild to think about. But here we are, staring down the barrel.
in the flip side of this, you could be worse. You could be the Sacramento Kings who missed the playoffs for 16 straight years, 17 straight years.
Yeah. Here's another good text. Basketball from back in the day was so much different, too, because unlike football, baseball, soccer, etc., a superstar is one of 5 players that's affecting the game rather than 1 out of the 11 in soccer or football, or 1 out of the 9 in baseball. So that delusion factor, like you're talking about, plays into the actual sport itself, because 1 out of 5 is much more of an effect on what goes on than if there are that many more moving parts that have to affect the game.
That's a huge part of it.
I agree wholeheartedly in that, and that's something that you look at too and say, think of the guys that when we reminisce and we think about those great Blazers teams, we have complained and we have lamented the superstars joining up era, right?
Mm-hmm.
The big 3 eras that we've come accustomed to seeing. At the same time, that's really what drove basketball and those great teams too.
Yeah, go look back at those old Kareem teams. Kareem, Magic, Michael Cooper.
Well, hell, look at the Blazers. Like the Blazers at any given time had 3 All-Stars on those teams, and they fell into a lot of them. Right? I mean, you fall face first into them sometimes.
Yeah,
so.
drafting a guy out of Stevens Point, Wisconsin, and Terry Porter.
Yeah, or Cliff, pre-Connecticut being an actual basketball school.
Yeah.
Jerome out of Longwood University.
They did pretty well.
Yeah, they did all right.
Yeah.
They did all right. All right. That's just something that when I saw the Wizards go 0 for February too, 0 for February, they well, along with the Blazers, 2 teams doing it in the same month. We are at an 3-1 season.
Yeah,
that's a record, Bob.
Also, if the Wizards keep losing, the next time they play the Pistons, if they lose every game between now and then, it will be for the 28th consecutive loss, and it will be against the Pistons.
Oh dear Lord!
This tying the record that the Pistons have.
And
if anybody's capable of doing it, it's the Wizards.
We had long-suffering Piston fans say, hey, rebuilds take a while, but they're confident in Ivy and Jalen Duren.
Mm-hmm.
Those 2 dudes are really damn good.
Oh, the Pistons are playing well. They're 7-13 in the last 20 games, which I know doesn't sound great. They had 8 wins coming into the All-Star break.
Dude, that's way better than.
So yeah, like they're in a much better spot, and they would have won 2 more games had they not had the game-winning heave and then getting absolutely screwed by James Williams on the Dante DiVincenzo tackle.
Oh, God. All right. Dang. So you're saying it's going to be a while.
Yes.
How long do you think until the Blazers? I think we got
back to the playoffs.
Year.
2 years.
I think next year, and then the following year, I think they're back to 500 basketball.
Yeah, I think they're about there. And we'll talk about this as we get closer to it. I think they got to get pretty busy this summer.
Pressure should be mounting. Yeah. And I think that is also one, too, is a lot of teams have. There's just complacency in front offices, too, and within fan bases. The lack of care.
Which I don't think that's the issue, as opposed to, like, it's okay. You did what you needed to do. Now where do you go from here?
Corporate espionage. Maybe that's where they go